Hello, and welcome to the Simpatico Podcast, the pop culture podcast where we sit down to discuss what we're passionate about. I'm your co-host, David Tavalier, and joining me...
And I'm your other co-host, Joshua Witzman.
Sorry, I don't normally do the intros, and now we're on video too, so it's hard.
It's great.
We're doing a review, aren't we?
We are doing a review today. We're going to be reviewing Evil Dead, the game. It's out now. We've been talking about it in previous podcast episodes. We've been really talking it up. We've been playing it nonstop since release. What was the release date?
May 13th, 2020.
May 13th. And we're just going to talk about, give it a review, give it a little breakdown, what we like, tips for new players, some things we might want to see that changed or, worked on, anything like that.
Well, first things first, this is Evil Dead the game, right? Now, we are both big Evil Dead fans. I believe we've done a podcast episode on the movies and TV show in the past. This was something that was on our radar for a long time. We've talked about it on a podcast, and we're very excited for it. Didn't know what to expect, honestly. But as a fan of the movies and show, I was very intrigued to see... Because there's been 3 Evil Dead games in the past, long ago, which I've only played a little bit of one of them. But they're very different. This is an online game. So let's talk about the game. So Evil Dead the game is an asymmetrical game, much like the aforementioned Dead by Daylight. It's a cooperative PvP combat-style online game. Does that sound right to you? That's the game you've been playing?
That's accurate.
Right.
That's the same game that sounds like the same game I've been playing.
All right, good. It's also based on the Evil Dead franchise. This game was developed and published by Saber Interactive. This game is released on all platforms except for Nintendo, I believe. It will be released for the Switch at a later date, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
Interesting about Saber, you've talked about them a little bit in the past. They are one of the producers of a game you've been playing lately. That game being
SnowRunner.
Thank you.
And the previous one was Mud Runner.
Which I also did not realize was a game. It came out May 13th and it did well. Sold 500,000 copies in 5 days. So off to a great start. Let's break down the game, shall we?
Let's.
All right. So, like we said, it's an asymmetrical game. You got on one side, you have the survivors, like the titular character, Ash Williams. Who would have thought he would have been in this game? Not only one Ash. I wish it was Ash Ketchum. Or a skin. Someone's going to make that mod at some point.
Eventually there will be, I'm sure. But yeah.
You get 4 versions of Ash because, guess what? There's 4 different classes. Want to hear what those classes are, even though you know what they are?
Let's hear it.
Leader.
I have no idea.
Leader. You play the game and still have no idea what classes are. Leader. Warrior. Hunter. And support. 4 classes, so you get 4 Ashes, 1 of each, and then a slew of other characters.
Yeah.
Like, who do we got? Let's start with support. You got your Ash Williams from Evil Dead 1.
Yes. Both hands. Intact.
And who are the other 2? You know who they are.
Then you've got Cheryl Williams, Ash's sister.
Who you played a lot as.
Does not. I love Cheryl. She's one of my favorites. And Pablo from Ash vs. Evil Dead.
That's right.
And all of those are great. Actually, I really like the support characters a lot.
Yeah, me too. And they're, as is the name of them, they are support characters. They give you health. They help your fear, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. Fear levels. They're all about helping the other players not die.
Helping them not to become part of the Evil Dead.
That's right.
They are the ones that do a lot of healing, and all of the support class has a passive ability where when they heal themselves and protect themselves, anyone within their aura of influence is also healed and protected and stuff too, which is very helpful.
Then you got your hunters.
Yes,
hunters. They're typically better at ranged combat.
They're long ranged, typically characters where they have abilities that make them be able to use guns and stuff better.
And we did mention, too, there's range combat and there's melee combat. So in the game, you run around, you find an axe, a spear, for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a skeleton spear. But then you got your of course, your rifles and your pistols and whatnot. But yeah, you got your hunters. You got Ash from Evil Dead 2 as the hunter. Mm-hmm. You got Ed Getley makes a return to the franchise.
Which I just watched Evil Dead 2 again recently, and it was funny because I didn't really remember Ed that much, but then he's like only in it for like not that long.
He's got my favorite. He's got one of my favorite demon reveals though in that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Demon reveal, and I love like when he just like sidles over to Bobby Joe and bites her hair. Whatever.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, because in the movie it's like a hybrid of like a puppet and like him, and then like him with makeup. It is great.
But then you also have Kelly from Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Love Kelly.
She's great. I need to play her more. I haven't played her much. She's got an unlimited dodge, and boy, if they use that thing correctly, it's bad news. Amanda Fisher then is the last hunter, and she's also from Ash vs. Evil Dead. She is good with pistols. She has an unlimited pistol ability.
And currently, the hunter class is the only one that has 4 characters available, leaving the possibility, the inevitable possibility, that we're going to have more characters down there.
I believe we will. And that will be exciting. And last but not least, we have, or not last, we got two more classes. Second last. Warrior class. What do you got?
Warrior.
The Ash for this one, of course, Army of Darkness Ash.
Yes, great choice.
Of course, makes
very
sense.
Appropriate.
Can heal himself. He's a powerhouse. These warrior classes are very strong. They're all good melee. And super hard to kill. You got
probably the most popular class of characters in the game that I've seen so far. When you're playing online, obviously it's multiplayer. There's 4 players, 1 demon player. Somebody always picks somebody from the warrior.
I feel like it's a good starting. If you're a starting new player, people tend to drift towards that because you have the health. You have like more health and you're stronger. Kind of, it's a good
more survivability.
Right.
Survivability.
Right. Then you have Scotty makes a return from the Evil Dead 1. And Henry the Red from Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness.
All great choices and very appropriate for the warrior.
Yes. And now, last but not least, you have the leader class. Remaining Ash is Ash versus the Evil Dead Ash. So
Old Man
Ash. You got Annie Nobe. Yeah. And then you have Lord Arthur, who is the last character to unlock, which is another thing with this game. There's 4 of those characters you have to unlock through single player gameplay.
So the leader class is basically what you would think. They have an aura that like assists the other players and makes it easier to achieve your goals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They give a nice boost to the group and have different abilities and stuff that associate and like help everybody.
Yes. I think this is the side people probably play most, like a lot of asymmetrical games. It's the team-oriented side. It's you really rely on your teammates to win. You got to stick together. You have to play together. You have to fight together. Really.
If the players are together and are sticking together, especially during the objectives, then the objectives like go faster and you can achieve your goals faster.
Yep. So, Demon. Let's move on to Demon.
Let's talk about the Demon.
Let's talk about the Demon. Can we talk about Demon? Can we talk about demons, please?
Let's talk about demons.
So when you're playing as a demon, you're actually, and we didn't say it, but when you're Survivor, it's a team of 4. When you're playing as a demon, you're on the other side. You are by yourself. And
Solo.
Hence the name asymmetrical. It's a demon. It's a very, kind of multi-layered concept. Like, there's a lot to it. Which, I remember before the game came out, you sparked a little bit of worry about, would it be too much? Like, would it be too complicated?
Yeah.
And it might throw some people off, but once you kind of learn, it gives a lot of variety, I think, to the gameplay of what you can do.
There just seems a little more variety in the ways that you can do it in this game, which is not a criticism on Dead by Daylight. It is what it is, and this is a different game. But it's a nice breath of fresh air for like a horror game of like Dead by Daylight. It's nice to kind of play this where you have a little more freedom to kind of do go about different ways to achieving your goals, as both killer and the survivors.
So, how it breaks down is you got three classes, much like the survivors has 4 classes.
Mm-hmm.
With each class it's just a different, like, it's one
different
specific demon. Yeah. So you have Warlord first, and basically that includes a basic enemy, which is the most common ones you see. There's like little possessed people. You got, and then elite bad guys, which are sort of like the stronger version of that. But then you have the boss, which is basically when you save enough points, you're able to bring in a boss character for
that's your
a
main
limited amount of
demon.
time. Yeah. So for Warlord, you have Henrietta is like, and the whole theme is basically like they're like possessed, like the Deadites from like the Evil Dead movies. So it's like possessed.
Yeah, it's just like the standard. It's just people. They look like, you know, they're street clothes people, and they've got like the typical possessed Evil Dead like makeup, the white eyes, the kind of bony faces.
And something I feel like I see more of, which I didn't at first a lot, but like they have a puking ability when you're fighting basics and stuff, which is always really fun to use, and even when you're getting puked on, it's kind of funny.
It is great.
Then you have the next one, Puppeteer, which is actually a demon from the TV show Ash vs. Evil Dead. So I don't know if there's people who have not seen that, but have seen the movies but aren't familiar with the show, but they'll soon know.
Which, if you haven't seen
Elagos.
the show, watch the show, because it's great, and you'll enjoy the game even more.
Yes. And that's Elagos, the demon.
Love him.
Really cool.
Them.
Pretty fun. And then the last one is Necromancer. That, of course, is themed around the Army of Darkness villains, the Skeletons, and Evil Ash himself.
Yes.
As the big bad.
He's the big boss.
Yeah, so you got...
And they basically do the same thing, but they each have, each of the bosses have different abilities. And, well, each of the units have different abilities, too, really. And that keeps it interesting, too. So, and they each have different strategies and, like, different things that you want to try to work on as you're playing them.
And I will say, too, I've been mostly for the past month just been playing a lot of Survivor. But I have to say, now I'm finally starting to get the bug of the demon. I've been having fun. It's just hard because even with like Dead by Daylight,
oh yeah,
it's just more because I feel like for me it's just more pressure and it's more like there's more on you to like win and do stuff. You know what I mean? I love survival and I love survival horror games. So like I really like the team dynamic of playing as a survivor, but
well, here's the thing too. Playing as survivor is like it's like driving a car, you know, a fancy car. Let's say it's like driving a fancy car. There's a lot of like switches and stuff. There's a lot of like things you can do playing survivor. Playing as the killer and the demon in this game, it's sort of like, especially starting out when you're first like trying it, it's like flying a plane. Like,
sure.
There's like stuff you're like, I don't know what this does. Like, should I go over? Is this, you know?
You do kind of need.
I got all these
like,
things
lessons.
I can do.
Like even the tutorial. The tutorial was still like very different than actually going into a match and like figuring out the flow of it and how to like what to do to, because you also have to. So for both classes, which you didn't mention, there's a lot of leveling up you have to do in game. So
yeah,
outside of your character tree that you do outside the gameplay that you know create these, you know, upgrade your characters, make them stronger. There's an in-game upgrade system where you're collecting pink pucks called pink Fs in which basically give you like each character actually has a different like amount they can collect, but it like gives them throughout the game, which is fun. I think that adds a lot of fun, like not only finding items but like getting stronger, but not necessarily. It's not the same every time. Like you don't max that every time.
Yes.
You have to find chests. To do it, and
well, and I've had a lot of games as Survivor where people are like rushing through it.
Yeah.
And you get to the end, and none of you are strong enough. Like you haven't gathered enough like points and like leveled yourselves up enough, gotten good enough weapons, to where you get to the end and then you just get wiped out.
Yeah. And most people know this, but this will go in our section of things people don't know to do, because some people still do it, and you can mark stuff on the map. You can mark items in there, but you definitely need to mark crates where you find stuff, because that's very big for your team to find.
For sure,
and get stronger. So let's explain real quickly the format of a match, shall we?
Yes, let's.
So the game starts. You 4 survivors. You start off with, unless you have that character has an ability, you start off with no weapons or items. But that's some do if you upgrade them far enough. They have Old Ash can start off with a chainsaw.
Amanda starts with a gun.
The supports start off with a little bit of health, a little bit of shields and health. Your first objective: find 3 pieces of the map, which is you're told where one is on the map, and you have to basically get your team to go there and find it, look around and find it.
Professor Nobi has left you 3 pieces of the map that will show you where the Kandarian dagger and the Necronomicon lie.
Yes.
You must gather those 3 pieces in order to find where they are.
Why didn't you narrate the game? But yeah, so you do that, but it tells you the area it's in, so you still have to like go to that area and still look around a bunch. It doesn't tell you where it's at. But
let me interrupt you here too, and just say the way that these maps are so huge, and the way that the objectives are like randomized about like where they are. You know, and the like weather conditions on the maps change and the time of day and stuff. So it's very, it always feels fresh and
it really
like
does.
different every time you play, because the objectives can be in very different areas, and so that kind of changes your strategy as a survivor, like how you're gonna like try to like guard the objectives or gather them up or go there and break up the team if you want to, try and do that. Or so.
It feels strangely like natural, the map. Like we talked about how the map looks and how the game looks, and it looks like a real terrain almost. And even when you know the map and know like the basic places, like you said, when the objectives are done in different orders in different places every match, like it really changes up how you go through that world trying to survive, and it's really great.
Yeah.
So then after you collect the pages, then you have to go to either one of 2 places. You get 2 places spawn. You have to go to either the dagger or the missing pages.
Yes, the map reveals where those are on the map, so then you can kind of as your team,
and you basically go there
decide
and
what
you
to
activate it, and basically have to hold your ground while the demon tries to kill you and wait for it to load. You do that for each, and then you move on to where the dark ones are holding the Necronomicon. So now you have the power to banish the dark ones and destroy the Necronomicon.
Only the Kandarian dagger is strong enough.
There you go. You got it. And then that's it. Well, you got to destroy the dark ones. Well, while you're doing that, you're being bombarded by bad guys. So that's something in itself. And then you gotta hold out for 2 minutes while the demon has a last chance to destroy the Necronomicon.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of back and forth. And through all that, the demon is basically leveling up, creating traps,
haranguing you.
Yeah, and trying to find you first of all. And trying to kill you, basically.
Yeah. So the main, when you first start out, the demon is on his own. You don't know where they are, and the survivors have to just sort of, they find out where the pieces are, and they got to start gathering the pieces. But as you are going through, there's demons that are like on the map, that spawn there on their own, like naturally throughout the map. So you'll run into them and fight them, and as you fight them, as you get separated from your team, as you, travel further across the map, you start to get scared.
Mm-hmm.
As you get completely terrified, there's like a little meter at the bottom that shows how scared you are. And when it reaches its max or a certain point, then you're just automatically, like the demon can see where you are on the map. And different demons have different like upgrades that'll like let them see you earlier in your scaredness. But as you get completely terrified, I don't know.
If your fear is too high, the demon can possess you, or however many orbs it has.
That's a big part of it too, is doing all this, trying to do it quickly. You know that the demon's out there, looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to get better weapons and get all the objectives that you need. But then you're also have to watch your fear, because that could reveal it and like screw your whole team. If the demon, like, if you reveal where you guys are and like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is an interesting. I like that. I like that part of the game, and I feel like I've got some things to say about that when we get to our tips and tricks section. But that's just another aspect of the game that is cool. I like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're kind of there right now. We can talk about like the gameplay itself and our experiences playing the game so far. I mean, Like you said, and like you briefly mentioned too, we didn't dive into. So as survivors, there are cars in the game, which I think is a great part of the game. And I didn't know how much I was going to play into it, honestly. Like when I saw it in the trailer, I was like, "That's cool," but like, how often are you going to need that? And it turns out quite a bit actually. And it's such what I love about it too is that they make the movies feel like they make the game feel like the movies. It's pretty great.
Very much so.
Just in the fact that when you're a demon, you can't fully catch up to the car, so you're just like following it, and it's very reminiscent of that scene in like Evil Dead 1 and 2 where he gets in the car, it's like driving, and it's like following the car, and it's just like every time that happens, it's like perfect, and it's great. But you can also possess the car, which is great if you do catch up to it for so long, and so I mean it's a great way to get to an objective with your team quickly, other than having to run across the map, because it is a big map.
When you do get in the car, it makes noise and alerts the demon to where you are. So when you shoot a gun, when you drive the car, that like automatically alerts the demon to where you are. So that's, strategically you got to think about that. But I played a match as the demon not that long ago where the team like immediately got into a car, and I was like, "Oh, these noobs! I'm gonna wipe them out." But they, it was great. Like they did great. They were all together. They got in a car immediately. They like drove to the objective, got out and looked. I caught up to them once they got out and looked, and I kind of hassled them a little bit there. But then they immediately just got back in the car, took off, because the car is faster than the demon. So if you can kind of like stay on the roads or kind of know where you're going, you can kind of keep ahead of it. And they did great. Like I think I lost that match as a demon, thinking that they were being stupid driving the car around. But so there's different ways that you can like, if you strategically like work together as survivors, it can work out for you.
Yeah, I had a match like that yesterday. Same thing, where if all 4 team members are on the same page and doing what they should do, not only being good at fighting off demons, but also I think it's good to also know what the demon's capable of, which is, I think it's important to also play as a demon, which I'm figuring out now that I've been playing demon lately, because you realize
for sure
now you know when you go up against a demon, like what they're capable of, and you realize how much power they actually have, because they might not be as strong as you think they are. So yeah, you could drive a car in the beginning, even if the demon catch up with you, he can only do so much at the beginning of the game because he's not fully leveled up yet. Doesn't have enough.
Yeah.
So it's like and knowing like if he does find you, what he's able to do.
Yeah, because as the survivors, you can see like what level demon is as you're playing, so you can kind of get an idea of like what they're capable of if you play demon and like know what like skills and stuff go into it.
You are in possession of the Kandarian dagger. Many have perished.
One question though I want to ask you, going back, playing as demon, what has been your favorite demon to play as thus far? Yeah,
I don't know. They're all good, but my favorite might be. I do just like playing as a warlord just because of Henrietta is hilarious.
Yeah, Henrietta is definitely the funniest one.
The thing about Necromancer, he almost feels too good to me. Like I had a great match as him, and I just felt like really fucking strong. I do love the Puppeteer.
See, that's the one I think is not too strong, but I think he's the one, if you get leveled up and his skill tree and the right things, like he can be devastating.
Well, first of all his basics and everything, they explode, so they're constantly they're always default to do damage unless the survivor dodges out of the way. But also, man, I do love the Elegoth demon. It's really fun.
Yeah. Oh, he's probably the hardest boss.
To fight,
I think.
Well, because that whole, you turn invisible and you can just like kind of float around and they don't know where you are. And it's really fun. It's really annoying. It's one of the things that's really annoying as Survivor, but as a demon, it's like really fun to like.
It's great.
Go around. Super fun. Yeah, and then you're also possessing the basics and the elites.
So the demon also has to collect energy and able to do any of its big attacks and stuff.
And that's the whole thing in itself. In the beginning of playing as demon, is figuring out the first thing you gotta do is just like collect orbs and create traps and build up your power levels as fast as you can. Because you start off, you can't even summon basics and elites when you first start off. So
you're just floating around being evil.
Floating around being evil. Also, it's mentioned that you can't be seen as demons, which is fun. To just like
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of spy on them and freak them out.
And I talked about how much it replicates the movies. It makes it feel like the movies.
Yeah.
Just being like the the floating demon flying through the forest, just so reminiscent of that classic Evil Dead shot of
that shot of like the low, like handheld, like shaky cam, like going through the woods and stuff.
Yep.
And that's basically what you are. If you do get motion sick, I guess. Be warned.
You're kind of floating too, so it's like you have to get used to like your movement because it's kind of like you don't have a lot of you have a lot of momentum, so it's like it can be awkward to control at first, but you get used to it. It's
well,
cool.
I think just the one thing I have to say is that the game, the level of detail and like just the amount of love that has went into this game, you can tell it's very like, it's obviously they did their homework. It's not just some like cheap game with like a Evil Dead label slapped on it. They've got like I said, so many lines from the movie. They got almost the entire cast back to like do the voices. There's a few. I know Ed and Amanda. It's not the original actors, but most of the original actors from Ash vs. Evil Dead. Even Linda to play the narrator of the demon is it's great.
Well, especially Scotty. Like, hey, we brought him because he doesn't. I believe that actor doesn't really act anymore, since the first movie. So it's so great. And I'm excited to see. Obviously, they're going to be adding characters.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited to start hearing about.
Yeah. So what about let's move on to I was going to talk about things that the game doesn't tell you. So obviously,
let's talk about some tips.
Well, so obviously there's a tutorial mode, but like we talked to each other when we first played, there's a lot they don't fully tell you tutorial. They kind of give you the basics. But for instance,
very basics, like how to move and like which button to attack. And
unless I completely missed it, I don't remember seeing anything regarding like noise, so I didn't know about that. Starting the game that shooting your gun or driving a car makes noise, so the demon can find it. There's that. There's
well, and let me stop you there. How do you feel about that? Do you?
I think that's fine.
Would you rather they like broke it down more, or do you like that sort of discovering it as you play?
Like just how the fact that you don't know.
Yeah, and like the different the intricacies of the gameplay. I mean, some of them are bigger stuff, like the support stuff. They don't really like go. They don't really in the tutorial. They don't really break down the different classes at all. They just basically, again, it's like how to move, what you're going to be doing, and like attacking. But they don't like break it into like what each class does. And
I feel like that is something that would be nice to know when you're starting off, especially because the game's hard enough, and like not knowing that like can screw you over. But like I don't know.
Well, even as the demon, like they don't go into like the demon's powers or like what the different like skills and stuff like do overall. There's things you can read when you're actually in the game, but you can't like if you stop and try to read what the different like levels do in game, you're gonna be behind.
Yeah, exactly.
To, like, read it all. I like that actually. I think that helps create a sense of a community with these kinds of games where you have like online stuff, and you obviously there's like forums and stuff on Reddit and elsewhere where you can kind of like commiserate with other players and stuff, and I think that's helpful, and I like discovering things. I think it keeps it fresh, and it's like the skill tree for the characters themselves, where you can kind of experiment with like leveling up certain bonuses and things like that. It's also, well, I'm going to try this time. I'm going to try a different class this time. Now that the big one for us was when we realized that the support characters, when they drink a Shemps, which is a heal, or they use an amulet, which is like a shield. If they're near other survivors, they also get the benefits of that.
Which is a big thing, but like, man, if you don't know, I didn't know about that.
And I did realize it does say that like there's like on the like selection screen when you're playing, there's like a little note on the side of each class, and it does say that.
Oh, it does
on that, but it doesn't. It's the writing isn't like very bold. It's not like something that like really sticks out.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and read it, but it doesn't say it doesn't say anything in the tutorial about that.
Yeah, it just can be frustrating when you're playing with someone and they're not utilizing that, because that's a big thing for your team.
Oh yeah.
And keeps you alive.
That's a bit better.
Do you prefer demon or survivor? What's your favorite?
I like them all.
Okay.
I honestly, I do. Because again, you can play one for a while and then you get frustrated and then you're like, I'm gonna go play. And it's. I will definitely tell you, if you have friends that want to play, definitely play online with headsets and stuff, because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
If you can actually communicate, and because I've played a lot of online matches where everyone's sort of on the same page. There's limited communications you can do in character with like saying, like giving directions.
There's a party chat,
and
but I don't know. I just.
Oh yeah, well yeah, there is that too. I just hate talking.
Yeah,
to
me too.
strangers.
Me too. I think most people do too. Because
rando.
even when it's on, I rarely hear people actually using it. So.
Yeah. No. But that's definitely helpful. But again, if everybody's playing, you can still do it without actually talking to each other.
Yeah.
The main thing, and this is a tip too, really is make sure you're sticking together, even if you're not like all four together. Find somebody and just like follow them, stay with them, because that makes, if you get separated, that's when the demon's gonna like, if he finds you, they find you. It's over because they'll just keep picking on you, and
that's something too. It's
wearing you down.
There's a balance too. I feel like it's always either people who spend too much time looting in areas that are not close to the objectives. They just run off. So that's bad. But you also sometimes need to take your time and loot, like when it's convenient, and when like you pass a lot of places that hold a lot of items. So if it's on the way to an objective, you might as well stop, try to loot real quick, and leave. But don't like leave people behind just because you're anxious to beat the game fast, Because then if you do that, you leave them.
If the demon finds you early, that's why it's so important to for your fear levels. Another tip is don't sleep on those matches, because there's different items you can pick up: weapons, health, shields. If you have room and you see them, pick up the matches, because especially early on, that is going to help you tremendously, because the matches you can light fires, and light in general reduces your fear.
Yes.
So you're going to want that, because if you get alerted early on, like you said, I mean, it can just destroy you the whole game.
Yep.
Especially if you can get somebody separate, because that is, I mean, it's like the movies, and that's another thing that's like great is. You chase somebody off into the woods, you get them separated, you get them confused. Everybody else is doing something else, especially if they're on an objective or something. And then you can, spawn a bunch of demons around them, possess them, run them off even further. There's a lot of stuff that the demon can do if they find you by themselves, especially if you're scared.
And I'm always scared.
I'm constantly afraid.
Playing as demon can be exhausting. To me, like I was
that's the thing.
It kind of wears you out.
It's all nonstop. I mean, if you're playing the survivors, you have to find the maps and you got to do this and that. But if you're playing the demon, like you're gonna go the entire time.
And you're juggling a lot of things. Like you're leveling up, you're plotting, you got to find characters, and
you're looking for them. You're trying to get energy so you can use your attacks.
Yeah, that's tough. Like keeping your energy up and finding orbs. That's a big part of it. And
you're setting traps and trying to strategically like think of where they're going to be.
Do you want?
Because you don't know where the objectives are necessarily. I mean, you know where the dagger and the Necronomicon are, but you don't know where the map pieces are going to be. So you don't know where to be setting traps. You don't want to waste your time and your energy. And
I found just like setting a bunch of traps right away, because like you just first of all putting traps down gives you a lot of levels you up really fast. So just putting traps everywhere. And there's nothing better than when it comes back around to that area, and then survivors are just hitting traps, like running the trap left and right. It's really good.
So here's been my strategy as demon. I don't know that this is necessarily a winning strategy. I lose a lot as survivor and demon, so I can't say that this is a surefire way. But when I start, I usually go towards like the middle of the map. I set like a marker and just try to go. Like usually it's like the Nobi cabin or dead end. The neighborhood on the other map, and I'll set traps there just to kind of level myself up early and get through like the first 3-4 levels, and hopefully if you can find them, if you're close enough, if they're around there, you can kind of see them. But then once you level up that demon vision, you start to see them at lower fear levels. so it's easier to see the survivors and stuff. So that makes it a lot easier to hunt them down and stuff. But again, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
It's just what I've been doing, and that seems to.
I noticed that too.
Like
I would just kind of go. Because I used to wonder how are this demon finding us so fast? But then playing as demon, I realized it's actually not that hard. Like if you because you look at your map, if you're on especially if you're edge of the map, you got to try to work your way towards some of those areas. Because if you just need to get somewhat close, and you can once one person pops up, you kind of know the general area where you're at.
Well, and when I first started playing too, when the game first came out, I was just like flying across the map randomly as the demon, just like, well, I'll run into him probably. But then you realize, after playing Survivor and stuff, you realize that the little areas are important. Like the map pieces aren't going to be like in the middle of nowhere. They're going to be at one of the camps, or they're going to be at the sites on the maps. So then if you try to like at least strategically kind of make your rounds through those sites and go hunt through a little more strategically, you can find them a lot easier.
There's a lot to it, and you got to decide if you're gonna like who you're going up against, and are you gonna try to kill them one by one, or if you're gonna attack them head on? Are you gonna possess basics and like fight them that way, or are you gonna try to possess people a lot, like use your scare tactic? That's a fun ability, flying through them.
Yeah,
that raises their fear. Gives you a lot of orb points too, which is nice.
Yeah,
so that's a handy thing to use, and, which is fun when you can get a lot of them scared and just start possessing them and like just making them attack each other is really fun. To just
that is great.
Beat them up.
For sure. Real quick though, what were some of your complaints? Do you have anything? I know there's a couple of big ones that we both have talked about, but let's voice our grievances.
We've talked a lot about one thing I think is slightly annoying is there's a lot of like environmental like obstacles, like small steps that you should be able to just walk up, like small ledges that should be low enough that you can just climb, walk up, but kind of creates, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it just feels like there's a little bit of trouble as a survivor, like traversing the landscape in certain areas. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of that is intentional, but it doesn't. I feel like the dodge that the survivors have should also be like a slight jump.
Yeah, like a lot of games have like you go up to a ledge and press A and it makes you like climb up it. Like,
it
would have been nice if that could have been. I used to get annoyed by. I still do, but like I get it as I'm playing as demon now. Like I think it helps the demon, but like I used to get annoyed by how you get no warning of like you get no footsteps or any sort of sound notification when demons are running up behind you. I felt like adding some footsteps would be a little bit, because you just get blindsided constantly as a survivor.
And the demons, I like that the demons do make noises, so you can kind of hear if they're behind
sometimes
you.
Sometimes they scream,
like you said,
or whatever.
Yeah, so there's no like.
But sometimes they literally make no noise. You could just be in a house, or you could just be somewhere looking at something, or looking at your map, and all of a sudden, nowhere, like bam. But
well, here's my main complaint, and this isn't a glitch. I think this is intentional. I just don't know how I feel about it. So, and this goes with my whole, like, not a complaint, but my issue with the hunter class in general. So the hunters have a lot of different abilities that help the players, like, stay in the match longer. But their main thing is that a lot of them deal with, like, the ranged weapons, using the guns, firing weapons and stuff like that. And that is its own issue, because if you shoot your gun off early, you're going to alert the demon and stuff like that, which we talked about is bad. So whenever you get to a point where you can use your gun, you're at the main objectives, trying to like win, there's this aspect of the game where, so say there's a demon attacking you, Tavalier, we're playing together, and there's a demon across the field and it's attacking you. I get my gun out and I shoot you, but then a demon comes up and hits me, and then it immediately, the game switches you to melee weapons, like, and then you can't like keep shooting and trying to help your friend. You're suddenly you have like a melee weapon instead of your rifle or whatever. And I think that's a balancing issue that they're trying to like make sure that the ranged attacks aren't better than the melee attacks or whatever, but it just is really annoying. I've just never run into that in any other game where if you're shooting and you get attacked, your weapon changes automatically, and you can't just keep attacking. Sure, there's a risk that it's going to like kill you, or like not, hurt you, because you're not attacked, or whatever. But It's just that's very annoying, and I hope, and I've heard, we've talked to people have complained about it, and I hope that they kind of change that again. I don't know how unbalanced that would be, if it's a balancing issue to begin with, or it might be a glitch. I don't know. I just don't like it. That's my main. It makes it difficult to play as the hunter, where you're supposed to focus on your ranged weapons, when any small attack that comes your way like changes your weapon involuntarily.
I did want to mention the one-player mode in the story.
Yes.
I mentioned earlier. So there are 4 characters you unlock all through these, which is what kind of delayed the game. Remember that they said they were delaying it to add a one-player feature, which I believe I'm assuming is the story modes.
The mission.
So far, there's only 5, but there is a 6th one in the menu, but it's not unlocked yet. It's gonna be part of the future DLC.
Yeah.
A lot of the general consensus is that they're very hard, and they are.
Yeah.
But I personally like it a lot. I know for amateur players, I see like younger people who don't play a lot, like complaining that like I just want to play as this character, but I'm not good enough to like beat this, whatever. But I don't know. I think it's fun. They could probably tone it down, the difficulty, but they're also not that long. I don't know. I think.
Yeah, they're not that long, and they're not that hard, and
they're good tutorials too. I think for the game, they teach you how to fight and how to, use weapons and all that.
They prepare you for the game. I think you have to, to get online, especially Arthur.
Yeah.
You have to reach a certain level of like know what you're doing, and like know how to play and dodging, especially as a survivor and stuff. And that is very helpful in the multiplayer.
And not just be a hack and slash.
For instance,
like characters. You got to learn to conserve health and dodge or whatever.
Yeah. Strategize as you're like trying to get missions, and like also learn how, when you are in combat, what to do, when to save your health, when to dodge. Realize like it's like old school video. You can see they're gonna do like a little move, or they're gonna do like a little jump before they attack. So kind of keeping an eye out for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like learning how the like different villains attack and stuff. So I think it definitely is. It is annoying.
Well, because they're so short and there's only 5 of them, soon to be 6. I feel like it should take a while to do. It's like why not? I mean,
and there's plenty of characters to play as still, even if you don't have those characters unlocked.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're missing out on that much. There's just different characters you can't play as until
it's
you
like
unlock.
the first Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Where there was 4 unlockable characters, but you still had the main 10. So it works. I mean, it's very fulfilling when you unlock them. It makes them more fun to play. Especially when I got Pablo, that was very exciting. I was really happy to get Pablo.
That was a turning point for me, where I finally beat the Pablo one. And I was like, God damn, yeah, okay, now I see what I need to do. Like, you start out, you get a little cocky. You're like, yeah, I've played video games. I know what I'm doing. Okay, let's go. Now I get this unlocked. But it is there's like a strategy to it. There's there's a learning curve that you have to beat, and when you do, it feels good, and if you don't, it's frustrating. But you don't get Pablo until you do.
I think you gotta not just try to fight your way through it without thinking. You gotta really strategize. And just think
you gotta conserve your resources in those missions.
And by the way, like I mentioned earlier, so you notice how when you do beat those missions, it also unlocks a Professor Nobi recording. The 5th one kind of, I won't spoil it, but basically I was reading an interview with Tom Willits, and he was talking about that they actually kind of came up with a reason, and it's in those recordings, of why all the characters are together. And they which they didn't need to do, but I thought it was interesting. They basically, in the final recording, Professor Nobi basically is trying to undo what he's done after unleashing the demons. So what he does is he reads a spell. I forget the exact details. Basically, he reads a spell that brings everyone that was in Ash's vicinity, Ash and all these versions of Ash, and brings them through time to whatever present that is, which is ridiculous, but that's also it's fun. Why not?
Yeah.
Also, we're playing the Xbox version. We didn't specify.
Yeah,
we are playing the Xbox version. I mean, we could go on for forever, but that's So how would you review this? If you want to do a number review?
Yeah. How many? Out of what? Yeah. Let's.
How many severed hands? How many out of 10 severed hands? What would you give this game?
Out of 10 severed hands, I would give this 8 severed hands.
Nice.
8 fully, like, fresh severed hands.
I'm gonna be. I'm just gonna be super generous. I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10.
Oh my!
Been playing a lot. It's a really fun game. It's not perfect, but it's damn near like the best. Didn't have any like need for an Evil Dead game. Had no expectations.
No.
And
That's the thing too, is I really didn't have any expectations. But knowing Dead by Daylight, I did kind of go into this, and I think that's going to be the expectation for the length of this game. Is there's going to be balancing issues throughout. There's going to be little things that they change or try to change or came up with initially, and I think that's what people need to realize. And that has to be the hardest part as a developer for these kinds of games. Is you want to, again, they want to create that community aspect by not telling everybody everything off the bat. And so you have that, but then there's so many complaints, justified and unjustified. I mean, there's, and just like, as the developer is like going through that and trying, like hearing it and like trying to like suss out what is a balancing issue, what is something that they could, I mean, that has to be just tremendously difficult.
yeah, for sure. It's
So props to them for coming up with a game as good as it is. Right,
I think it plays well. I think it looks great. It does so much justice to the movies and TV show. It's just it's just so much done right. I think it's great. It's gonna be a game I'm gonna be playing for a long time, I feel.
Ditto.
That's just my opinion. Other people, it might not be for them, but I don't know.
And even if you're not, I mean, even if you're only cursorily familiar with the Evil Dead franchise, I think it's still a fun game. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of different gameplay, like I said. So if you're a fan of like these kinds of games, if you're a fan of horror games in general, I think anybody in those categories would enjoy this. But if you're a Evil Dead fan, then this is definitely something you're going to want to check out.
For sure. I agree. Yeah, especially for Evil Dead fans and even kind of play games, I feel like you should at least give it a try to experience Evil Dead in a new way, you know?
Exactly.
Well, that's all from us. Josh, if there's nothing else to talk about, I think it's time for us to leave.
And so it is.